Tell me about yourself.
I'm Carl Marlinga. I'm running for Congress, 10th Congressional District, which is Macomb County and Rochester Hills and Rochester in Oakland. And the district in Macomb is basically Macomb County from 8 Mile Road to Hall Road, and then it goes north of Hall Road for Shelby Township and a bit of Macomb Township, and then it picks up Rochester and Rochester Hills. I've been, in my professional life, I've served as a prosecuting attorney for 20 years. Was very proud of the work I did there. Did work in private practice where I mostly represented clients in business matters, and enjoyed that aspect of the work as well. I did some Innocence Project work with the University of Michigan to identify and free people who were wrongfully convicted of crimes that they did not commit, which has the advantage not only of freeing an innocent person from a hell on earth that they never thought they would go through, but also the work then points to the real perpetrator, and so it led to the arrest of the people who should have been convicted in the first place. And then at the urging of some friends, I decided to run for judge. Didn't really think I'd like being a judge. I never thought of myself as a judge, but when I became a judge, I loved it. I was a probate court judge for 4 years and a circuit court judge for 6 years. Did some good things in the judge business. I set up a thing called the Mental Health Court, which is a felony diversion court, meaning that people who have gotten into trouble with the law, who are not guilty by reason of insanity, but for whom their mental health problem has been a chronic reason why they keep on getting involved again and again. We set up a special court for them to get the treatment that they need. And as a result of what we did over the 8 years I was with that court, we had not one of our graduates return to a life of crime after that, which in criminal law statistics is really significant. That hardly ever happens. And in addition to that, as prosecutor, before, I did some good things in terms of setting up units for the care and treatment of sexual assault victims, both children and women. And also in terms of social responsibility as a prosecutor, I was the first prosecutor in the history of the county to appoint African Americans as assistants. And I upped the percentage of women from 4% when I started to 52% when I left. And so we did a number of good things in addition to strictly enforcing the law and making sure that people who break the law would be held accountable.
Sure. If elected, what are some of your top priorities?
Well, one of the top priorities in the first month, hopefully in Washington, we and other Democrats will be passing a nationwide bill to restore the rights of Roe versus Wade. I know that in Michigan, we have a constitutional amendment which protects personal freedom for women in this state, but there are 41 states in the union where that kind of protection for privacy is not available. Government doesn't belong in this area at all. This is too private and personal, and we shouldn't be using the heavy hand of government to invade the choices that belong only to a woman and her doctor. And that will be a high priority. By the way, it's also the major point of difference between Mr. James, the Republican incumbent, and myself. He's part of a team which would go the other way, which would look forward to a nationwide abortion ban. I know that Donald Trump is backing off of that call right now, but the reality is that J.D. Vance, the vice presidential candidate, already wrote to the Justice Department saying that we could use the Comstock Act, a law from 1873, which would effectively be a nationwide abortion ban, but not only abortion, contraception as well. And so it's just a very clear line of demarcation. I'm on the side of personal freedom. Let women control their own lives, their own reproductive choices. James, to a greater and lesser extent with other Republicans, think that this is an area where government should intervene. So reproductive freedom is number one. Number two, it's to do something serious about the cost of living and the cost of goods. In addition to capping drug prices, which is a big thing, we have to realize that the greatest push on inflation, the greatest factor that causes prices to go up, is the high cost of gas and oil. Now, On the Republican side, their answer is, well, let's drill more. Okay, even James has said that drilling in the Great Lakes for gas and oil is something that he would support, an emergency backup program to make sure that there's enough oil. But oil out of the Great Lakes would be the proverbial drop in the bucket. It would be meaningless. And also, the Republican thinking on this is flawed. By drilling for more oil, you don't bring down the cost of gas and oil because the oil companies have worldwide cartels that set the price. And if supply and demand would make a difference, the OPEC countries would simply drill less if we drilled more. And so it wouldn't mean a single penny in terms of the cost of oil and gas. But remember, when we go to the gas stations and pump gas, that's expensive. But what we also have to realize is that every box of Cheerios, every head of cabbage that we buy at the supermarket is delivered by a vehicle which uses oil and gas. And so therefore, those prices are passed on to consumers. And so if we wanted to get serious about dropping the cost of everything, we would make sure that we have alternative energies that would at least provide competition for the oil companies. We don't even have to turn a lot over to renewable energies, just the threat of knowing that we could get stuff cheaper somewhere else. Like, for instance, I am not for EV mandates. I think that electronic vehicles are wonderful, but I want the market to decide how many people want them and when. Now, I believe that long term, electronic vehicles are the wave of the future because for $4, you can go about 100 miles in an EV, and for $4, you can go about 25 miles in a gas-powered vehicle. And so these things will sell themselves. So we don't want mandates. We don't need mandates. What the federal government should be doing is to make sure that we have an infrastructure where there are enough fast charging stations across the country so that the distance anxiety is not there. But then let the market decide. I want every kind of car, gas, diesel, EVs. But the long-range future of the market is going to be for more and more vehicles because people want them in Asia and Europe. And so we can't get behind, all right? We don't want mandates, but we can't allow the auto companies to get behind what people in the world are going to be buying. Now, if we do that, we're going to be lowering the cost of things as well because, first of all, it's going to be cheaper to drive. But also, the more and more you turn away from oil and gas, the cheaper it becomes. There's a book, Turning Oil into Salt. What it means is that at one time, salt was the most precious commodity on the planet because it could preserve food. Roman soldiers were paid with bags of salt. It was precious. Now, for $1.25, you can get a box of salt that stays on your shelf for a year. You don't think of it as a major geopolitical type of factor. You know, where are the salt mines located? It's just there. It's useful. It'll always have a use, but it doesn't dominate world politics. And so what you have is a situation where right now oil dominates so much of the world market. It shouldn't. It should take its place. There will always be a time and a place to have oil and gasoline, but the renewable energy that nature gives us every day should not be ignored. The sun shines down on us every day. The wind blows through the trees. The tides come in and out. Nature furnishes us more free power every day than human beings could use in a decade. And as long as we deliver the goods and services that makes the delivery of these renewable energy sources possible, the cost of living is going to be going down. The air quality is going to improve. The planet is going to improve. And some nation is going to get rich by being the first nation to really promote the production of solar panels, of tidal turbines, wind turbines, heat pumps. That nation should be us. We should always be proud of our automotive industry in Michigan, but we should realize that in order to expand our economy, we should expand that part of our economy, but we should also be making these other things. And so the wave of the future is for people who think with a vision ahead to not just say, let's hold on to what we've had in the past, let's grow our economy, let's do things different that we didn't do before.
What makes this time around different? Why do you think you can beat the incumbent?
Well, first of all, it's a presidential year. When I ran for prosecutor and judge, I always ran in presidential years. My vote has always been heavy because the majority of independents come my way. For instance, the last time that Donald Trump was on the ballot and I was on the ballot at the same time, I gathered 249,000 votes. He gathered 224,000. Hillary Clinton had 176. And so it is my cycle. All right, so just it. Secondly, the National Democratic Party is now fully invested in this race. 2 years ago, they weren't. They thought that this was more than a lean Republican district. They thought it was a safe Republican district. I finished 48.8 to 48.3, 1,600 votes out of 360,000 votes cast. It was so very close, the third closest race in the nation. Now, this time around, this is the closest race in the nation. John James just said so on his website, and our polls indicate that we're deadlocked 47 to 47. So the National Party is putting in a lot of money. I've raised a lot more money. And the secret sauce that we have on our side is we have a ground game. We have over 1,000 volunteers going door to door. We expect to hit between 80,000 and 100,000 households between now and Tuesday. We're going to get out every single Democratic vote. And Gary Peters in the Senate race running against John James in 2020 won this district with 50.3% of the vote. We are on target to match that or better it a bit.
Just any closing words. What do you want to say to people who haven't voted yet?
Well, first of all, this is your country, your democracy. You saw what happened on January 6th of 2021 when the election deniers made us doubt that the election was as accurate and valid as it was. If you don't vote, you are then a part of the problem. You allow people to say, well, it could have been different if everybody voted. If everybody gets out and votes, then we'll always have election deniers, I suppose. But the integrity of the election is more easily understood if everybody was a part of it. And so save democracy, get out and vote. It's not only your duty, but it's your opportunity to be a part of history, to make sure that that the will of the people, which is what we are about, that the will of the people finds its way into what government does. That's what makes us different. That's what makes us better. And don't just sit on the sideline when you can be a part of history.